I just want to know, everybody here to know, due to public interest and everyone that's here, want to jump forward. What we're going to do is go through the beginning part of the agenda. We're going to make sure we get to the 7:05 hearing, all those kind of things on time. So we're going to jump past to old business and discuss drainage way of North Sage-Horn in the essence of time. And if anybody wants to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're absolutely welcome. But then we'll start going back down the agenda after that. So just so everybody's got their mind in the right place before we start, that's how I plan on going tonight. So, all right, we'll start with roll call.
Okay, Mayor Manning.
Here.
Kill.
Here.
Monahan.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
And Brenneman is absent with notice.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for 7:16?
So moved. I'll second. Sorry.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And no bills payment on there. Moving right on. Do we have an open section here for public comments? Any public input on non-agenda items? Okay. Nobody here to have public input on non-agenda items? With that, we're going to move down to visitors, and we've got the downtown committee to discuss downtown lighting. So, let's start that off. Jessica.
I'm starting now.
Okay.
It's so nice to see you all again. It's been a while. Did you all have a chance? Did you get the PowerPoint or the PDF and then the spec sheets for the lamp posts?
Tracy,
And have a
put those in
chance
our
to look
packet.
at
I
those?
think Jesse sent them out this morning. I put them in your box. So
Yes.
should be on your
Okay.
computer.
And I don't know,
I'm going
emailed
to
as
that.
well. I don't know if they can pull them up
Yep.
and look at them. Okay. Well, the downtown Hartford group has come back together again, because we've got some new businesses in town, so it's kind of a revived effort to bring more businesses and gathering space and, create kind of more, or build the economic, or have economic growth to downtown again. So, in our efforts, the first thing that we'd like to do is have a beautification effort. And one of those elements was the lighting part. So having historic lighting downtown in the form of, lampposts, and then we'll also add on flowers and greenery next summer as well. But we know that there was $10,000 set aside in the budget for downtown lighting, or for lighting in general. And what we would like to do is request that $10,000 get used for this historic decorative lighting, and then this money that would be used for the Sioux Valley updates, then we'll use it for these lights. About 1,000 of it sounds like it would be needed to cover those expenses with the Sioux Valley updates, and the remaining amount possibly we could use for these lamp posts. We'd like to put 10 lamp posts in downtown and solar LEDs. So these LEDs are unbelievably economical, plus you don't have to hardwire them in. So that means that we're not digging into the ground and we have all of the electrical expenses from hardwiring. There's a replacement on them within 5 to 10 years because they're solar, but we don't have the monthly rate charges from it. And then installation is very easy. They just get bolted down to the ground. So the cost of those, the estimate that we got is $11,500. Then approximately $200 would be for the hardware. And then Craig Wagner and I met and we went over this and, wanted to see what his thoughts were on it, if he supported it, thought it was a good idea or not a good idea. And Craig can speak for himself, but he sounded like he supported this idea, versus doing the traditional decorative lamp posts. And in the presentation, I did note that those traditional lamp posts will cost about, just from DSG's quote, minimum of $7,500 a piece. So these lamp posts are about $1,100 a piece, and so a significant savings by going with the solar LEDs. And then it helps us to get that ball rolling with the beautification effort of downtown, which then will hopefully help attract more businesses. And with the other efforts for activities and events downtown, that we might be able to just see more people coming in downtown and then hopefully spending and then increase our sales revenue.
That's good. I do want, first of all, questions for Justin.
Just one, maybe you covered it. Estimated $2,700 is needed to cover the total cost after the SE expense. What's the SE?
This solar, or Sioux Valley.
Sioux Valley.
So Sioux Valley, when Craig and I sat down, he thought, well, with the concrete that's gonna be needed because of those updates to the Sioux Valley light poles, that will possibly cost $600 to $1,000. So if we take that $10,000 that's in the budget, then we've got $9,000 left. Well, our estimate on this is $11,500.
Okay.
So that's that difference.
Touched on it, I just didn't get all the numbers together there.
Oh, okay,
All right.
okay.
Good questions.
What's the current light put up for wattage, Craig?
The ones that are up there right now, I believe, are 250s, but they're LEDs, so I'm not exactly sure what they span.
Well, that's, I'm curious, because these are 20 watt LED.
Yeah, more than anything, these are more of a decorative, just to give it some aesthetic downtown. Sioux Valley, this all came about with Sioux Valley stuff and this 10,000 that we set aside last fall. If one of these posts would get hit out here or something would happen to them, they're gonna put it in with their own posts. So we started looking at it thinking, well, do we wanna have one oddball post here, another one here, or do we wanna just go through and get the 6 taken care of? And then we started thinking, we were looking at doing some other stuff, and it was just to rewire everything like that was just gonna be, going with our own, buying our own posts and that. When we were talking, Jessica and myself and Ricky were talking, we thought it'd be nice just to leave the regular corner lights of the 6 that are there now, replace them with the Sioux Valley light, which is the aluminum pole. And Sioux Valley, I talked to Ryan Gruber with that, and he sent me over a quote. Basically, they would replace the lights and the poles and like that. We just have to leave a little bit of what they call a green space around the pole. So that's where we have to take out a panel, re-pour that panel, but leave a 36-inch green space in there, which they're talking about putting some type of a basketry or a flower thing or something like that in there, just to kind of give a little aesthetic that way. So the poles, basically, the only cost from Sioux Valley is going to be, our rates are going to go up from, I think, $18 or something like that, up to $22.45. So about $4 a light per month, which is what the rates are right now for any of our aluminum poles that we have in town. So basically what we do is we leave those, they put these decorative lights up just for giving some looks downtown. And, you get a little bit of light from it, you're not gonna light a road up by or anything like that, no.
Yeah, that's not the intention of these. These are not to light the street. You've got Sioux Valley's light posts for lighting the streets, that's functional lighting. This is purely decorative, so this is what makes downtown attractive. And then you get the additional lighting at night. So you do have lighting throughout downtown at night, so you would be able to walk through, and it is completely normal to have dark spots in between them. I mean, you could fill that in if you wanted, it just doesn't, it's not necessary.
And I noticed this not that long ago down on Phillips Avenue in Sioux Falls. It's pretty common where you get the regular street lights out there, things that are mandated by the city and paid for, all those kind of things, and then these up there for ambiance, really, and really just to create a culture, just create an environment downtown that you're looking for. So
Yeah. So then we'd also add banners and flowers. So it's really step one of an entire process.
I just want to be clear, your ask for tonight is to have it budgeted. I want to be clear on what we're looking at there. Is it to, and if it's in here, I'm sorry, when are you looking to spend money? How is this all going after this?
We would love to do it as soon as, if you guys approved it, I would have it ordered and we would get on it. Jesse, I know there's an event coming up that we could potentially have it done by, I don't know. But we would do it this year yet for this phase. So we do have plans, we would like to have it continue on we'd like to have it continue on in the future as well, to continue growing our downtown area. So, and this would be, what we were asking for is that it would be the entire amount. So the estimate is at $11,500. So we would like to ask that it would be the budgeted amount plus that additional piece to pay off the entire, this lighting bill.
All right, other questions? Anything else you didn't cover, Craig, that you would like to cover on this?
Yeah, I think you pretty much have it covered. Like I said, the stuff with our regular street lights, that's gonna be something I would work out and coordinate with Sioux Valley. So whether it was, if they're too busy this year, we do it next year, There's no hurry to get these lights out here. They already got the LED heads and everything on them. It's just that one to get hit, so that's gonna be, that would all be city costs to remove that. They take the poles down with the jackhammer, the concrete out of there to pull that stuff out of there. But then they'd rewire them and everything like that with their costs.
Okay. That's good. Other questions from the council?
Do you have $1,500 in any of your budgets, Greg? Left?
Possibly. I better have.
It's only July, it's only August, right?
Well, I was just thinking we should probably spend your money before we get into the general, because you'll spend it at the end of the year anyways.
I'll second that.
I don't think it was a motion, but thanks.
I know that, but past experience will show that.
I do think there's a third penny out there that's supposed to help promote
Oh.
town.
Oh, good shot, Greg.
Can we use that?
Nice recovery.
You can use it for promotions. We pretty much use all our third penny for the chamber and the development corporation, so there's not extra. And I think we got 1,000 miscellaneous budget in there for now. So we got $1,000 sitting in the third penny.
So 1,000 from third penny, 500 from Craig, and then the 10,000 in the budget.
But am I reading this right? We need 2,700 on top of the 10? Am I right? No?
That's it, yes, that would be, if we take out that 1,000 that is gonna be used for covering the expenses with Sioux Valley's
Yeah.
light poles, we're down at 9,000. Well, our invoice or our estimate is at 11,500, and then that $200 for the hardware
So-
adds on that 200.
So we're 2,700 short.
Yes,
Okay.
so we'd like to ask for that to be covered.
All right. More questions or motions?
I'm gonna make a motion to release the 10,000 that was budgeted for the 10 LED light poles, and to come up with the remainder from third penny and Craig's budget, really.
I'll find it somewhere.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? Hear none? Discussion?
I'll just say that my hometown of Scotland did this hardware, and it changed the complexion of their main street tremendously. They went above and beyond and moved the highway and everything else all the way across the board. And then actually, we all talk about first impressions, people coming to town, so on and so forth. This is one of the most dramatic first impressions that you can make, even though the Kelvin is not up to this, where the measurement of light, but it certainly does get attention. And so yeah, I just want to say that I feel that this is a very good, positive move for promoting downtown.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll vote. Ryan?
Yeah.
Jones?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
All right.
Very much.
Thank you. Yes, thanks for all the work you put into this. Thanks, Craig. All right, we'll move to our 7:05 hearing, which is to review and approve the garbage application submitted by Oakley Sunrise Sanitation Services. It's in our packet here, I understand it's for roll-off services, is that correct?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None? Nelson?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
And Monahan?
Yeah.
All right, now we'll move down the agenda. We're gonna go over down to old business and discuss drainage way of North Sage Corner Drive. So, with that, Teresa, how would you like to proceed with the discussion of this?
However you'd like to proceed, I maybe give a little background of how this started. We talked about this a couple months ago. We had some citizens that are along that drainage way, and there's a drainage way on North Sagehorn that runs on the north side, and it affects about 7 property owners in town. It's on their property, private property, but through the years, it's has grown, silted in, got grown over with some cattails. It's not conveying as much water as it used to. The water kind of backs up a little bit on it. It needs to be maintained,
Could you
basically.
stand, please? It's hard to hear over here.
Okay, so
Or
the drainage
just-
way on this private property is just a little hard, it hasn't been maintained and it needs some maintenance on it. So, I had actually last fall, one of the property owners approached me about, can the city come in and maybe drag that out or do some work in there? The problem being is we don't have any easements for this is all on private property, as you know. I contacted our insurance company and basically said, without easements, we can't go on private property. We could try to get an easement, which would be good. But even with an easement, without owning the property, we are still open to some liability on it, just because if we go onto private property and we do some work and something isn't quite right, we have a potential liability issue. So at that time, you guys instructed me to send a letter to the property owners and say, we understand this is a concern and we would think about, looking to taking this over, wondering if they would be willing to, basically turn just the drainage way area over to the city. I got a response from 3 people, not from everybody there, so now a couple months have gone by, we decided to put this back on the agenda to readdress this and to discuss this with the property owners and see how do we proceed forward from here. Is there a way the city can take this over? Should the city take this over? Should not? And kind of discuss the issue, so.
Sure.
And I think there's several of the property owners here, so.
I agree. Yep, thank you, Teresa.
Okay.
All right, would any of the property owners like to come up and talk a little bit about your position on that, what your thoughts are on that?
Can I comment a minute?
Yeah.
Yes. Scott called me this morning, so I talked with Teresa, and I called Mitch, the stuff with Stockwell, to ask for a little clarification. Here's what I found out. With the storm sewer that's being ran down 9th, culvert will run into the retention pond that sets at the golf course. I call it by hole 10, I guess, or 10 and 16, or whatever you want to call it. And there's a culvert from there that runs to the drainage ditch. It's my understanding that the culvert from the drainage ditch, Craig jump in whenever, is probably full, or relatively full.
Sure, yeah.
The question I asked Mitch is, so that water's been getting there anyway. It's been coming down the ditch, down the street, down every direction. It's been getting there. Here's what he said to me. He said, now with the storm sewer, it's just gonna get there faster. That's his impression of what they assume is going to happen. So it's still gonna take the same route as it's always taken. It's just gonna get there in a bigger hurry. the issue, I think, is we already got a drainage ditch that the city took over up here on Crestwood Trail. And it's a heck of a time to get it, and it's been so wet this spring. I don't think we've been able to get in there, have we?
No, we
To do anything?
started to a little bit, and that was it.
Yeah. So that's the conundrum, if you will. It's a great idea, but being able to get it accomplished is going to be, that's going to be an issue. Anyway, that's my setup, if you wanna, that's what I found out today.
And I'd like to throw in that, with Knapp's Landing, that is actually designed to take the water from his property a different route. So I know there's been some people who've been thinking that
Right.
that water was gonna add to this, flow channel, but it's actually, a majority of it, if not more of it, is designed, all of it, is designed to go to the west. So that's.
Well,
gonna-
probably them front lots.
Yeah, just those front lots, but they're feeding there now, and half the property before is probably feeding to the same drainage area down, Vandemark and 9th Street, where a lot of it now is going to, hit the streets and it's gonna go to the west.
If anything, there'd be some excess of water coming off the golf course that is currently pooling. That's gonna get to that pond quicker and then have to outlet to the east. It's a,
Yeah,
Central
the
Valley.
golf course all has
Central
under
Valley.
tiles and stuff like that that all go to the
right,
same.
but we're putting some inlets now,
Yep.
Right.
of course,
They may pick up some of that,
yeah.
yeah.
Hey, Craig, in your 25-plus years of experience with that culvert that is now existing between Hope and 16, have you ever seen a culvert of that size plug?
Well, the one that's there is actually private, so I mean, I've never really been back in there to see it, but I think it's only like a 12-inch or something like that. It's not a very big culvert. Yeah, they do plug. They will get weeds in them, settlement gets into them, they will plug, yeah.
Okay. What's the end resolve at that point?
Well, that's designed even for heavy flows, the way the golf course designed it 20, 30 years ago, whatever it was. Because that was always a natural drainage area that went through.
Right, and I remember.
So when they put the holding pond in there, their pond system that they wanted to have, so they could have the water on the course, they put smaller culverts in to alleviate, normal runoff and that stuff. But if it gets too much runoff one time, then it goes up and around their berm that they've got there. There's a dump site, which all holding ponds, dams, everything like always has a bypass on them, so they will wash the dams out. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Public comments, anybody like to come up? Come on up, just make sure you state your name so she's got it from once.
Can do. My name's Chris Peters, homeowner at 705 Sage Run. First of all, thank you for the background on kind of some of that, as far as the genesis of it. And I guess I was under the impression that maybe more of that water would be coming down from Vandemark, which is probably one of the areas of concern that I had based on how much water that's currently already in there. Maybe a couple of questions for the group, if you might indulge that just a little bit. I guess the first question is we talked about an easement and no absolute protection unless property was deeded to the city. But I guess, is that the only reason that the easement is not an option, or is there some other type of a governmental reason for that? Because to be honest with you, I don't see it as a big difference between other utilities that happen to run underground on private property and this utility that happens to run above ground on private property. So utilities have an easement to be able to come in and maintain that. So that's probably a couple of general questions.
And when I talked to the insurance company, that seemed to be, the biggest thing is that it's just, we can get an easement on it and that does allow us to come in and do work and maintain. But the insurance companies always want to caution you, it's like, but we caution you, if we happen to not do something right, or some property owner has a water problem after we get in there, we might be in a liability situation. So it's basically, like I said, we can go in and maintain it, we have, the insurance company will fight for us, or try to resolve any problem if an issue comes up, but they're just telling us having that easement is not a guarantee that you won't be liable for something, but you can, so that's just,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's
Absolutely.
just the thing. Yeah.
The death and taxes.
That's right.
You know, I guess that's kind of, if, that's kind of a risk management decision at that point. Just some information on those of us who hold mortgages on the property. Technically, I don't own the land. So deeding something that I don't technically own is not an option. I'll just tell you that right now. If I were to do that, it pretty well puts me in breach of contract of a mortgage, which then requires me to, at a minimum, revalue, refinance my loan, which then obviously the additional cost and everything goes into that. So I personally would tell you that is not an option. Mortgage rates have been pretty good for a while. We've taken advantage of that. Not necessarily in a position where I'd like to do that. That's kind of why I would like to be able to come together kind of as a community and realize that maybe an easement is a reasonable way to do this. You know, and each of the property owners can kind of figure out, okay, maybe there are sprinkler heads, lines, something like that in the back that might, you know, be impacted. That's something that I will take responsibility to say, look, I'm going to make sure that the easement that I grant is taking that into consideration. You know, if we think we need, call it 30 feet, but that's going to put me within 2 feet of a line, maybe I'm talking about 25. You know, I'm looking to be reasonable at this point. Doing it the easiest way that we can all do it without an absolute guarantee that puts me in trouble with a mortgage company. The other thing that I do have some concerns about right now is I happen to live right next to the pumping station and the drainage culvert and things like that. That maintenance is not real great right now, to be honest with you, with the silt buildup in there. I would think with the concrete, that would actually be one of the easiest places to be able to get a bobcat or something in there, get it scooped out. But that's not necessarily kind of what's happening now. So, to be honest with you, I would worry about the type of maintenance. And I understand once you get back into that area, man, it is soupy. I mean, you can't walk back there without full-size waders and everything else. So, I guess that's all the comments I have. Any other questions? Oh, the culvert under 464. Well, I blinked this a little bit. So apparently the culvert under 464, kind of right on the Colton Road highway there, gets particularly plugged up back there. Is that a private or is that?
County.
It's a county. Okay. So if there was any cleaning to be done at that point and to backed out, that would be a county.
Yep.
Okay. Has anybody talked to the county about that particular thing that's causing it?
I haven't, but I can certainly look at it and contact somebody on it.
Yeah.
Chris, you're saying actually that culvert going underneath the Colton highway actually has logs?
Well, I don't know that it has logs necessarily back there, but to be honest with you, I mean, that's where most of that silt ends up log jamming.
Okay.
And the things that flow down there. I would say with as many cattails as we have through that back area, I don't imagine very many twigs, let alone logs, are getting to that point.
I'm just reading an example.
Yes. So, however, everything else that, you know, particulate matter that does happen to get down that way, does, you know, it does bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where the culvert comes together. You would think that would be a big enough place that it can get over, but you know, I don't think the water carries enough speed to kind of get over all of that. So.
That's your neck of the woods. Can you expand? Are you done, Chris?
Yeah.
I would love to hear your perspective on that.
I guess probably the most thing I noticed that's happened the last few years is the water levels have gone up. And I know Martin was talking about how the flows have been a lot faster.
That's what he told me, yeah.
But I'm just kind of curious how much more water we're actually getting running through that. just with latest construction.
Well, I don't think we're gonna know. And, because when I asked him today, I said, so I get it that it's gonna get there quicker, but I don't think until we have that, who knows what's gonna happen if we get a 3-4 inch rain, you know, that's the,
Yeah, I just noticed we have a lot of topsoil being run off in our backyard.
yeah.
We have posts and concrete, there's more concrete exposed.
Right now, when it fills, does it run over the top of that their retention pond? In the spring, when we have a lot of rain, does it run out of their retention
What it
pond?
does is it comes in front of the 16th tee box, and there's about a 40-foot thing of water that comes into our yard, and then it runs down to the drainage ditch and then over, because everything's so plugged up, it has to go around. That culvert that's underneath that berm on 16 there, I mean, you can't even see it, it just trickles through because it's so plugged.
It's a wall of water that's in our yard.
And we're worried that if we have, water getting there quicker, how far is that gonna go up into our yard? You know, we're worried about flooding and stuff like that, because the water's getting there so fast, you can't drain through. Now it kind of filters through a little bit, but that won't happen if they're putting all that water through at one time.
And it doesn't make sense with that new culvert that they just put on Cold Road. You would think that we wouldn't be having this kind of problem, but, you know.
We
that
don't
would be
actually
good.
go in that culvert, so I can't tell you if it's clogged or.
The kids do.
No, they don't,
They-
they're not
they
allowed.
use-
They're slip and sliding down the hill, but they're not in the culvert.
I would tell you the kids next to us, they're in the culvert next to our house, I'd be shocked if they're not into that culvert.
Probably, have them bring a camera.
There is some kids going down there because they're hunting for bunnies.
Yeah, we've heard them.
Yeah,
Heard them.
so I think they're in that culvert.
They're frog fishing too.
I would say.
You gotta come up, I won't be able to hear you from there.
Go ahead.
No, I want you to come up,
Yeah,
but I won't be able to hear you from there.
I know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, over the last couple of years, it's definitely been a pretty serious problem. There's been a lot more water standing there, not moving as quickly, and like I said, with that culvert being redone on Colt Road within the last couple of years, it seems for some reason we've had more issues with that. And I know there's a lot of construction going on in Hartford, and I know there's probably more water draining into that. But yeah, there's definitely something that needs to be done to that, for sure.
Maybe there's more cattails,
Possibly.
in all the backyards that with all of them.
But I know we lost some topsoil just on that area by where the water flows to, so it's rising higher and it's pulling more dirt into it, so.
The cattails
Our dogs
are-
can officially escape under the
Yeah.
fence now.
Jeff Smith, I'm on 803 Sagehorn. Kind of echo some of the things you said, as Chris had said. The easement sounded like a great possibility when we were approaching this. Again, we don't own that property, we have a mortgage on it, so we cannot deed it over. This year, of course, with all the rain, it has, of course, been one of the highest years. I mean, we have the garden back there, you can see our retaining wall for the garden, it was almost over the top of it when it came through in the spring. So that means it's moving pretty quick. When you're adding on the new, developments, who knows how fast it's going to be going, how much is going to be going through there. This is the last couple of years is the worst it's been since they put in the new culverts under Colton Road. Whether they didn't, drop them low enough or what they did, but it had, or it's been clogged up severely. It's continued to get higher, and it's still back there. I try to mow behind where my garden is, and I have a spot for my mower, and it's halfway in the mud most of the time. Where in years past, it'd be dry back there at times. So, in my personal opinion, if an easement would come through and would able to, whether you can put a cement, drainage, whatever. I mean, the cattails are nice looking, but we have snakes come in our backyard. We have mice a lot of the places. Who knows how many other critters, beavers, muskrats are back there and stuff. So something like that, where if they put that in and we were able to, even though it's still our property, mow right up to the cement drainage way would be great. I think it would improve the look of the property and so on. So I guess any questions or?
Jeff, I do have a question. The one thing that keeps coming to my mind as far as this easement is the fact that an excavator, right, Craig? would basically have to come in and do the job?
Yeah, you'd have to have some different equipment in there.
Okay, so I'm not only asking you, you, Jeff, but everybody else, is that there's only so much room to get that done without that track hitting your property line. And that's what worries me. I mean, because you've got to give us some variance here to get the job done. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you'd like to see the water flow quicker, but yet I worry about the fact that if we're doing the job we're supposed to be doing, that it would put a rut where you're mowing and it cause you a little discourse.
I understand that, however, at least what I have seen from I think you sent us the property lines, no matter what, there's no city property, it's all private along there. So no matter what, you're gonna be going on private property.
Yeah.
Yes, you'd have to get that, but my other question is when you mentioned that there's liability for an easement if they're doing it. If it was city property, there's still going to be a liability. They're working on it, if we somehow would able to be able to deed it over, they're working on whatever, they leave equipment there, they're not gonna be done in a day. There's liability there also. So you've got both ways, where I think in my opinion, one, because we would be able to give an easement, we would not be able to deed it over. Two, that would hopefully take care of the flow, whatever. Maybe getting the county to, clean out the culverts would help. Somebody needs to take care of that, and that would be a potential, easement on this, so.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Craig, do you have a rough idea, just a rough idea of how many of these private drainage ways we have around the city?
It's quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
And the ones that we maintain right now are only on city ground.
Just the ones the city owns property, yep.
Okay. And this one, if we were to take this over, whether through an easement or through deed, we don't have the equipment to handle this one right now. We'd hire it out.
Yeah, you'd have to
Or,
hire
okay. I guess that's where my concern comes up with it is not that I don't want it to happen, but I'm curious if, one, it sets a precedent that, okay, we're willing to take over private drainage ways and start setting easements out there. Two, it's not Craig and his crew out there doing it, it's all of Hartford paying for the taxpayer, well, it is if Craig and his crew anyway, but I'm just kind of curious, like, with this, to clean it out, we're gonna have to contract it out, get it done. Is that for all of Hartford to pay, or is it for that area to pay?
How many of those other places have a storm sewer that's
Excuse me,
funneling
Scott,
out?
just one, you can come on up if you want to. But, I don't know the answer to that, but I know that we start to set a precedent if we say, hey, we're gonna take on all the drainage ways. And if we're gonna take them all on via easement, it's something to consider. I don't wanna take this motion lightly, because I wanna make sure that everything's being done right for you. I also want to point out, I know it's been a tough year for everybody as far as water goes, and farmers and everybody. We probably had more water this year than we've had in the last 30 years, and quite frankly, it just sucks for everybody, because it's not going anywhere, it's not sinking into the ground, it's just staying on top, but, I don't know, those are my concerns with this, is if we had the equipment and we had an easy way to be able to handle it within the city ourselves, then I think that's one thing. The other part of it is that we don't. We would hire it out just like the local property owners would in this case. So I guess that's the only point I'm gonna bring up on it.
I'd like to shoot another question to Councilor Nelson. Could you expand, please, on the hold harmless agreement and what it would mean to these property owners?
Well, I assume you're gonna have a hold harmless agreement that says if you go out there and you do all this work, you want the people that you've done the work next to agree not to sue the city and release you from any liability as it relates to the construction or flooding that may occur after this were cleaned out.
Okay.
That answer your question?
It does, and given that it responds, does that change any of your consensus at all?
Does a hold harmless, I'm sorry if you need me to come back.
Come on up.
You gotta-
Does a hold harmless, not include negligence? So the agreements in the event of negligence, on behalf of either the city or a contractor?
You can have, hold harmlesses say that would exclude intentional acts or negligence on the part of the city. From my perspective, the city's being asked to come in and do something, and it's either doing something because it has an obligation to do it, or it's doing something to accommodate the citizen and at the citizen request. And when we get to the areas where it's doing something that it's not obligated to do, it's not uncommon to say, hey, we don't have to do this, we're doing this to try to help you. And when we get done, we don't want you to sue us for anything, because we could have kept on the legal food chain by just saying we don't wanna do it. And in direct answer to your question, unless it was an intentional act, that we intentionally did something,
As opposed to?
we'd be asking that you agree to waive any rights you'd have against the city.
As opposed to professional negligence of a contractor or something?
Let me give you an example. Let's say right now, no one's got any water in the basement, we go out and clean this thing up, and we dig it up, and you guys all get water in your basement through the ground, and you start saying, this is your problem, you shouldn't have dug the drain, you should have known it before you dug the drain. I want you to understand that we didn't want to dig the drain in the first place with the ditch. So that's gonna be an issue, and as long as our insurance company says we got coverage, okay, I can sign off on all kinds of things. But if it says to me, I don't know if you have coverage or not, then they look at me and they say, tell me we're home free, and the only way I can tell them they're home free is if there's a waiver.
Larry, I got a question on the hold harmless agreement. If we were to put a hold harmless agreement in place, if we were to do that, does that carry over to new property owners? Or do you continue to get new ones in place as people change ownership?
I envision that you would have an agreement with the property owners and the easement that would include that hold harmless provision, and that it would have standard language on deeds or covenants or easements that would say the terms and conditions of this easement are binding on successors, heirs, and signs, which would cover all subsequent property owners.
Okay, that's good.
Before I'm Deb
Yep,
Peters.
come on, Deb. We'll just need you up
So-
here so we can.
No, that's
Then
fine.
everybody-
So, and, my husband's more business about it. We bought the property knowing there were cattails there.
Yeah.
I like the cattails. I'm not gonna lie, I like them. So, I get it, we have to be reasonable and we have to come to a consensus. However, I also want you to take a look at, we've lived at 705 North Sagehorn for close to 18 years. And I'm gonna be honest, the city's done 3 or 4 different things with that drainage area that the city actually owns between the house, the other house and us, with, next to that sump station. I'm gonna tell you, it's been ugly since day one. And I have pictures from year after year after year of every number of craziness you can possibly think, dry years, wet years, doesn't matter. The city doesn't take care of it. I actually pay somebody to come in and spray the weeds, because I don't want the dandelions and the junk in my yard. So I have somebody that does that, and we've been doing that since the day we moved in. So if we're gonna do something with an easement and we're gonna have the city do something, I'm also gonna request that it's kept up to standard within the property of the golf course. When we moved in, we had to sign covenants that said we were gonna put in specific grass and that we had to use a certain person to put in the grass. We're gonna request that it is taken care of similar to the golf course. Because currently, I can show you photos. I know this year is an off year and it's super wet, but I can tell you over the years of 17 years of living next to that property, the city's property has not been taken care of to any level of standard of a homeowner that actually has to sit there. Some years I'm actually mowing it myself, which is fine because it's my civic duty. However, I'm gonna tell you it's just not been taken care of. And it's just really disheartening to hear that if the city wants to come in and we're requesting you to come in and clean out the cattails, I'm gonna tell you that's not the case for me. I get it for Scott's perspective, he wants to have drainage move through. But before we start talking about easements and we talk about agreements and all of that, let's pursue what's going on with all of the other culverts that is preventing some of the drainage. Let's take a look first at the drainage, figure out why things aren't draining before you blame it on the cattails. The cattails have been there for 17 years and this is an unusual year.
Can I ask a question, Deb?
Yeah.
Sit down. Are there cattails growing on city property?
Yes, on the cement.
There's cattails growing on
On the cement.
Yeah, we have not
On the
got any
cement
clean out,
slab.
I'll say that. It needs to be cleaned out.
We do have, we did take a couple of.
I have some pictures for you.
It is a disgrace how the city has taken care of it. I feel sorry.
This is a photo of the city. This is at the beginning of the spring, obviously. But this is the mowing. That's our property there, and this is a cement slab. It's about 2.5 feet deep, and there's the cattails on the cement slab.
And that's actually.
So that's running down.
And
next year.
that's running right next to my house. This is
That's
tonight.
actually tonight.
And it keeps progressively getting closer and closer on the,
That's kind of the side view.
that's the side view.
Kind of where.
That's all city
where it
property.
is, and then this is the stuff it's currently in the, I would say, sorry, I'm gonna get up there again. Of the three things that were done with that city area, I like the concrete the best. Mostly because when it was new and it was fresh, it actually directed that water very quickly kind of to that area. Some of the other things that we tried before were, it was when we first moved in, it was just kind of a grass swale. And that was very prone to kind of coming up on the sides. And then the next thing we did was we put some boulder, it wasn't quite riprap. Right?
Well, to
And
start
it's-
with, we had grass in there, and it was actually in good shape.
Yep.
The homeowners decided to drive across the city property and run it out. Heavy rains washed it out, so we came in there and put some ties in there, put some oversized rock in there to try to hold it, and it just, every heavy rain would wash out, so that the city put this in, I think we spent $35,000 or something like that on this here. And right now, yes, the concrete is full, but we can clean it out, but the stuff behind it is just as high as what would be taken out.
Yeah.
And we are gonna
Well,
go
it's-
try to clean it out, but
Yeah.
it was, I
Well,
was gonna
and
run
just-
it up to.
That's what I was thinking, just from a frame of reference. So when that various project were coming through, there was equipment that honestly couldn't do all of the work within what the city property was. We didn't really worry about even an easement at that point. We certainly didn't talk about deeding a little bit to be able to get it on there. And to be honest with you, we realized that it was to our benefit when the city did it. So when we did have some damage to the grass or whatever, you know what, it wasn't something that we made that big of a deal of. I realize we are now, 15 years later, and the litany of lawsuits and things like that are out there make us, quite frankly, a little more gun shy to be able to handle stuff. But I don't know how many people are familiar with all the things that kind of went on for that point, but I would suggest that that might be a precedent already set for the city dealing with a homeowner property, even though it was the city's property, and doing it sort of on behalf of the homeowner.
Thanks, Chris. All right, so, drainage and sage one. Scott, I think you've got, yep. And after that, we're gonna wrap up a little bit on this topic. So we'll be looking for questions from the council and
I
discussion.
just have a question for what kind of liability will the city have if they don't do anything and all this water comes down quickly through this storm drain that the city put in? And we get flooding that we never had before because they're putting all that water down quickly and it has no place to go except for into our homes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I don't know, and I'm being serious and I'm not trying to be cute with you. I will tell you that in general, water law in the state of South Dakota says that guy on top of the hill is called the dominant tenement, has the right to discharge water on the servient tenement. That's the guys down the hill because water flows downhill. And when you use your property, anytime that you do anything to increase the flow of water downhill, you can increase the volume, but you can't increase the rate. And one of the questions I had, because I don't know anything about the history of the golf course, just looking at this here, it would have seemed to me that probably the golf course was built first, and when it was built, the drainage pattern was altered, and it continued to go down through this drainage way, and then that the subdivision came in after that and sold the land off to each of the property owners without having granted easements, responsibility, or ownership to that drainage way to the city. And that's just an assumption, and if I'm wrong on that, someone needs to tell me now.
Well, I know we talked to people in Pierre this summer. We were there, and they were saying that Humboldt had a similar thing where the city put in some culverts, and then it ended up flooding out one guy.
If your question is if there's something that we've put in and it's caused the water to back up, the Humboldt thing, yeah, I think that's an issue if the county has done that. You can't, under law, back water on to the guy up the hill. I mean, you can't. I can't build a dam and back it up to you if I'm further on down the creek. But as I'm sitting here, one of the questions that the city council is going to ask me is why is this the city's problem if they didn't install a culvert on the county road? That's the problem.
Well, they are installing one on 9th Street.
Okay, and tonight I listened to that and I thought I heard your explanation as being is that contrary to what we thought, it was sending water the other way, not down here.
I don't know if that's the case. I think while we were working on the project on Vandermark and 9th, they thought the best solution to get this water was to get that storm sewer put in, if I'm not mistaken.
So back
Is that
again,
correct? Did I admit?
I would say it moves water from one property owner, the same property owner, who owns property on the north side of the road and the south side of the road, across 9th Street more effectively. That would be my interpretation of it.
Correct.
So back to water law 101 is that big holding pond that's south of the Empire Mall when you're coming up the interstate. You look over and go, boy, there's a great place for the kids to go down the hills and this big pond. Well, that's a detention pond that has a little small pipe at the end to catch all the water off all the developments. And the little small pipe is designed to have a rate of flow of water go out of it no more than it would have been down the creek when it rained without all the development. And so the solution may be as simple as if there's more water coming down your way, to put an detention pond that has a pipe in it that slows it down, because as a general rule you can not increase the volume, or you can increase the volume that flows through, but you can't increase the rate of flow.
And that's what they're going to be doing on 9th Street. The rate is going to be becoming a lot more.
And I'm not an engineer, I don't know, and that's kind of what I see the issue as being.
I have an idea. Deb made the perfect comment. She says we're talking about easements, but we really need to know what's going to happen. We really need to have Mitch or somebody from Stockwell look at this deal and say, what happens if we clean this out? Is it going to change anything? We got this 12-inch culvert running from that pond to the drainage way. We got the culvert at the end of Colton Road. What is going to happen? What is our end result? If we say we're going to keep this thing cleaned out, is it going to make any difference based on what we have for infrastructure right now? And I don't know that we know that quite, and I don't know that Mitch could give me that answer even today, Craig.
I would also like to ask him what he thinks is going to happen with it when all that water does come down into that holding pond. Where does he think that's all going to go? If it's all going to come down quickly, where's it going to go? It's going to spread out into our homes.
I thought Deb had the perfect comment when she said the city isn't maintaining their property. I thought, well, if we maintain our property, you maintain your property, and you maintain your property, and everybody maintains their property, then we've got no problem, because this is silted in over the last 25 or 30 years, and nobody's done anything about it, so if everybody just maintains their property, then we've got no problem. That was the part I got. Deb said the city hasn't maintained their property, I thought, nobody's really maintained any property.
Well, and if we wouldn't have all that extra water coming in, it probably would be okay. But now that we're getting it coming down quicker than what it ever has before.
We're assuming.
Yeah, he said that, that's what he said, but I don't think he knows.
No.
I don't think he knows.
We're being preventative here, and probably having a discussion on the front end.
Yeah.
That is gonna be more tame than if we had it on the back end.
Because the question I asked him, Scott, what do you assume happens now that you put this culvert in? He said it's gonna get the water there quicker. That was his answer.
But if there's no place for it to go, once it gets to that end point, what was their plan? To get the water quicker away from one spot and just let it sit in another area?
Maybe the golf course needs to deepen their retention pond by about 15 feet.
And how we can do that?
Well, I would have to assume that is silted in over the last 4 years.
I would bet it is.
From what I understand, and Craig, from what Mitch has talked about, so we're bringing the water that goes overground now, down the ditches, down 9th Street. It's gonna now come through a pipe, and that overground water goes into that detention pond now. And we're gonna put a pipe though, underground, and put it there, so going through a pipe, it's gonna go faster than overground. But it's still gonna go to this detention pond, and going out of the detention pond, if it's got a 12-inch culvert, it's only gonna get out the same rate that, it is now, even.
Except the one
It'll be
now
a
is all
fuller pump,
plugged.
and that's just it. I'm thinking it's a plug issue with the culverts, plugged on the golf course and plugged on the county side. Maybe we need to look at the culverts first.
Yeah.
And get.
Detention pond's only gonna handle the normal rains. It's not gonna take care of the 5-inch rains. All of our detention
Well, none
ponds
of
we
them will.
have, if we get a 5-inch rain or more, it's gonna top every one of them we got. I mean, so if the culvert's plugged, yeah, it's gonna come around your side quicker. But it's still, there's still the cattails and all the maintenance issue through that whole drainage ditch that is gonna hold water, mosquitoes, bugs, rodents, whatever, unless it gets clean, something, it gets clean, But as far as,
That may take care of the water.
yeah, but as
if
far
we
as the
get
water issue, yeah,
culverts.
if the culverts get cleaned out, and I'd have Mitch do a study on it, and have him pull some, see what changes are made as far as.
Would be nice to know.
It is, because this is on the front end of it, it's not moving that direction
Right.
right now, none of that's happening yet.
But we've had the questions, Mayor, that's why I even made the call to Mitch today, because I wanted to have a little better handle when we got, because I knew these guys were gonna come from that, I wanted to get a little better handle where we were at.
Because on one hand, water that was sitting up here might move down here in 15 minutes now, where it may have took all day before. But it's still going to the same
It's still
place.
gonna get there.
But that water that got there first is discharging a lot faster too.
It's discharging faster.
We see that with tile, when we put tile in. The water gets there faster, but it goes away sooner. Because it's there first and has a chance to run away. I don't know the case for sure. But listening to you guys, faster water isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Well, if it comes and goes at the same rate.
It's different.
Hey, hold it, guys. I'm
So-
in the dark right now.
What
I'm a
they're
deaf
talking about
guy.
is, they're talking about the water under 9th Street in Vandemark is gonna move it faster, right? But it's going into a retention pond that it used to take all day. The water used to take all day to get there, and the retention pond had a 12-inch pipe to get it out. Well, one, it's probably clogged, so it's not escaping as fast as it once was. So now, I think what Scott's problem is he's got a problem today. The water isn't escaping, so it's never draining. It's never draining, so once you get a little bit of rain, it's going over and around and ending up in yards. Okay? So now you're gonna speed it up. You got a pipe now that's gonna make it go even faster, and you now have a pipe that isn't discharging at all. A culvert now that's not discharging at all. So now you have water that's sitting there, not draining, still not draining, and now you're gonna flush way more water faster that used to take all day and fled slightly. Now you're gonna push all that water that much quicker, around it that much quicker, without any discharge at a slower rate. I think that fundamentally that's your problem. Now, I don't know how you fix that. I mean, yeah, the cattails are a problem. This is an unusually wet year, but here's your problem. We've had cattails for 17 years, and this is the first year we've had massive problems with water. I mean, yeah, we have 5-inch rains, and yes, we have trouble with basements, but we've always had trouble with basements on 5 and 6-inch rains. You just can't prevent it with a 5 and a 6-inch rain, unfortunately. But I think ultimately our long-term goal is, if we're gonna flush water faster, we need to flush water faster all the way through, and you gotta figure out what the rates are and to get it off the golf course and through the backyards. I'm willing to help out, I'm all in, but we gotta figure out, okay, so how much faster are you gonna push the water, and at what drainage problem are we gonna have with that retention pond? If the retention pond is supposed to hold so much water, okay, fine, but it's gotta discharge at a certain rate in order for the retention pond to actually work. And I don't think right now that retention pond's doing what it's supposed to.
So this year it's the worst it's been. It's the worst rain we've had for a long time, I agree. What can we do to check the drainage of that? Whose responsibility is that? And how can we move that along?
It would be the golf course, culvert drainage, and I know we were back there and looked at it, and it was running, but I probably is definitely 3/4 full, you know, so it'd be one of those things we'd have to talk to the golf course, and I think, like I said, we should get Mitch involved, and, you know, and like I said, get him involved out there, talk to the golf course about getting their culverts cleaned out, so that they actually will let the water through there instead of all around into Scott's, you know, on a normal rain. Heavy rain, you're still gonna get it. Do that, we'll clean ours, I'll go in there next week, it should be dry, we'll get up in there and we'll clean our property pins and ours, and make sure we're not holding anything back, you know.
Then we should talk to the county.
Here's what I noticed on
We'll look at
Google
the
Earth.
price.
There are no cattails on the east side of the Colton Road. That drainage way doesn't have a cattail in it. Maybe right close to the Colton Road, but there's a massive difference from
On
here
the east side?
to here.
Yeah.
But that's where the, I know part of it is because the farmer over there has his cattle over there all the time. So they're probably eating what would be cattails.
What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
the maintenance is different on the west side of the Colton Road than it is on the east side of the Colton Road.
Or the water's not actually getting over to the east side. 'Cause
Are you
it's supposed-
recommending we get cows?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. That may be the
My daughter
solution.
would love that.
We're also getting a lot of runoff from the golf course from all their fertilizers and stuff, and I think that's what fuels the growth of the cattails in our section there too.
Because the cattails are easily 12 feet tall. I mean, that's a tall, those cattails are tall.
I don't know, I guess where I'm at on this, we've spent a lot of time on this tonight, we're gonna have to move on to other agenda items, but I think we need to keep it as an open discussion. If there are any motions on the floor, I'm absolutely open to those. I do think though, we need to make sure that right now, the water's not moving any different today than it was 6 months ago, from what I understand. But as soon as we get this project done, it will move different. And we're basing it on assumptions of that. We've already opened up the discussion. We know that there could be an issue as this is going on. So obviously we open that up ahead of it and not behind it, which I think is a good thing. Whatever we can do to figure out that piece of drainage that the golf course has there, whether we need to talk to them personally or put that down and talk to them at the meeting, whatever. We just need to keep this thing moving along because I don't want any issues based on new drainage, neither do you. I don't know that us taking over the entire drainage way is the solution, but there's probably a solution somewhere in the middle here.
Can I ask one hypothetical question?
Yeah.
Larry, just a quick hypothetical, I know you don't like hypotheticals. Let's say Chris and Bill clean all the cattails, tall grass, rodents, everything they need to do out of their entire property, okay?
With you?
By city ordinance. And then the 3 property owners to the east of them don't do anything. And there's a major event. And the water backs up and they have flooding in their basement. Do they have a suit against the property owners to the east for not maintaining their property? And they have a suit against the city for not enforcing the ordinance.
Well, first off, do you have an ordinance that says they got?
We do.
Does it?
Every one of these people's in violation right now.
Does it set what the standards of the clean is? Okay, if there is a major rain event, the first issue is whether or not it's an act of God. Versus a normal rain, 100-year storm event versus a 500 storm event, and the 500 storm event may just say, hey, it didn't make any difference at all, so you may be talking about a 100-year storm event. I suppose the city could be joined in a suit and that there would be a cross-claim filed against the 3 people that didn't clean out their property, and there had been a number of notices given to them to clean it out. Short answer, when I was trying to explain water law 101 is that you can't put in a dam to back up water onto your neighbor. I mean, you just can't do that. You can back it up, and to the extent that you've described, someone could make that argument that those people, by failing to clear, had in fact done that. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody's got some potential exposure.
Okay.
So my question is, with the culvert on Colton Road, is the county, if everybody else takes care of stuff and it floods, is the county liable for that everybody else's flooding?
I'm gonna tell you that if there's a major event where all hell breaks loose, the plaintiff's lawyer is gonna tell you, we're gonna sue everybody and let them figure it out. But, it just using a big broad brush, if the county down there, when they put in a culvert that was undersized and that's what caused it, and they ignored what their engineer said, sure. If the engineer undersized it and ignored what the demographics are, all those people are in the legal food chain. And I'm not trying to avoid your answer, but I'm also trying to tell you truthfully that when it all comes, when the suit's filed, don't be surprised if everybody and their dog did it.
Alright, so we got some takeaways. Do we have any motions for fall?
Yeah, I'll make a motion here to table this with the input from Stockwell Engineering for more concise information. Because I'll just expand on that. This is not part of the motion, and the reasoning for that is there's a minute situation on Tessa compared to what we are experiencing here. That what's his name again? Mobius, where it's exactly where Scott is at, and it's just it happens once a year, but he has issues every single year. This year I was out there helping him shovel snow because it was the drainage and the same backup issue that you had, and so we certainly do not have enough information, in my opinion, to make a decision on this, given the scope of still what's not known and what potentially could happen in the future.
Okay, so your motion is to table?
Table.
Not to a specific meeting, but to a future meeting?
Future meeting, I mean, I would, before I finalize that, is there any urgency here that I need to know about so that I can put a final hardline date on that? Is there something, Scott, do you have, you'd like to see this done by the end of August, September? Okay, because I want to take your input into consideration that if we need to move, a little more aggressively, because it takes time to get from point A to point B, as far as your situation, I would put that into the motion, but at this point, I feel confident that we're going to move aggressively enough to the point where it's certainly not going to sit there on the back burner. So I'll leave it open-ended to table until further notice.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Alright, on the table motion, we have no discussion. We'll vote. Keel?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
And Monahan? Yeah. Okay. Any other comments before we move on about this topic? Come on up if you
Yeah, sure. I got here late, I thought we were gonna talk about it later, farther down in the meeting.
Well, we are farther down, but we're still there.
You just jumped up.
We're just still there.
The one thing I maybe missed was, is there any part of that whole drainage thing that the city owns?
I don't believe so. so, but
30
there's
feet.
that piece of that.
Was that 30 foot
we
wide?
over the years.
Yeah, ours probably from where what's backed up is maybe about 10 feet by 30.
So then it's all private property. So twice this spring, the city said that drainage issues on private property are the responsibility of the landowners. So then why is this different?
This is different because the public improvement may be affecting this private property.
Is it gonna happen every year, that we're gonna have years like this, or in?
We hope not.
Okay, I just was curious about, if there was, because I heard talk about a culvert, and I thought maybe the city owned the culvert, but.
No, we're discussing a culvert that the county has to maintain and some of those things, and private property, so.
Okay.
No, appreciate it. All right, thank you. We'll keep you posted. Obviously, if this gets added back as another agenda item, we'll make sure we're in contact with you, contact your council member. Teresa will most likely put out notification like we did this last time, so that if we want more public discussion, we'll open to that. We're not gonna put it on the agenda without you knowing, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You're welcome to stay for the rest.
Don't all leave at once.
We elected you guys.
All right, we'll go back up to applications, hearing, resolutions, and ordinances.
So it's not our fault.
And special event application, we got the Hartford Fire Department. Gail.
Hi, guys. Actually, hi, Mayor, and hi, Councilman. Obviously, I'm Gail Olson-Duck, I'm with the Fire Department. We're having a community event on August 24th, and what I'm here to ask you is if we can block off the intersection of Western and South and Kingsbury and South, because we are from the hours of 9 to 3. The event is running from 11 to 2. Things that we're going to have is we are going to have Sanford's helicopter coming out, and that's probably the main reason we want that road blocked off. Minnehaha County Fire Safety Trailers coming. Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office will be conducting child safety car seat checks, and they'll be doing child fingerprinting. We have the Red Cross, they're setting up a table about fire safety and safe routes out of homes. South Dakota Emergency Medical Services for children, focusing on poison prevention. We have Turkey Federation, we have the Optimist. South Dakota National Guard is going to also be setting up bouncy houses, and we probably would like to have that in that area as well. And so that's what I'm here for, and I'm just asking if we could get approved for that, and then the fee of $5 waived.
I would make a motion to approve and waive the $5 fee for the Hartford Area Fire and Rescue.
Second.
Discussion?
Who's the fire chief?
Brian.
That's all I wanted to check.
Was that a trick question? He took me out.
Well, we
Brian
missed
Schumacher.
him last meeting, so.
Oh.
And now you're here, so
I'm on the committee
I
for
wonder why he's
this.
avoiding us.
Oh, no, I was on the committee for this, and I volunteered to come.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like to invite y'all to come.
Yeah, it's always good to have that.
Yes, it will be.
Free helicopter rides?
No. And I will tell you as well that we're going to be doing blood pressure checks, and they're going to be serving hot dogs, chips, cookies, water, and lemonade for lunch.
You should do those
The
during the
salt
meetings.
and the hot dogs will be good for your blood pressure.
Yeah, you should do those blood pressure checks during these meetings.
Yes, you bet, anytime. Anybody wants one, we'll do one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. We'll get the barricade set out for them, so.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Craig. All right, we got several first readings. First reading of ordinance 673, disease vegetation. These have been updates that we talked about here in the last, I believe it was last meeting.
Yep.
And Teresa's got those readings out there, so.
Yeah, so like on this one, last meeting, we talked about a few minor changes to some of our regulations, just to clarify stuff. So with this one, it's the disease vegetation. It talks about, diseased trees and whatnot. We specified the Dutch elm disease in there. Now with emerald ash borer, we are just adding that wording in there to say this is a disease vegetation too.
Motion to approve ordinance 673.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. First reading ordinance 674, duty to remove.
Okay, with this one, that it talks about the duty to remove basically snow and ice from your sidewalks during the wintertime. Ordinance requires you to clear the snow and ice from your sidewalks. We had an issue of that mean, how wide does it need to be? Because there were some that weren't clearing, you know, the full sidewalk. So this just, as wording to says, the entire width of the sidewalk needs to be cleared.
Motion to approve ordinance 674.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, first reading ordinance 675, prohibited parking after snowfall.
Once again, clarify where you can park after snowfall. So our ordinance now says that the forecast or the actual accumulation of snow, you can't be parked on the city street. Well, once again, kind of came up, well, what is it new snowfall accumulation, or is it blowing snowfall? Because we had some blizzard events this past year where we had to get out with the plows and move snow around. So this just says, kind of clarifies it to say the actual accumulation of new snowfall or blowing snow, so.
Move to approve ordinance 675.
Second.
Brian, can you expand on this, on if you had to issue anything this last winter, talk really loud because you're way over there.
About parking,
No, about blowing snow.
blowing snow? As far as move off the sidewalks,
I mean-
I'm sorry, I was looking at something else.
That's fine. Okay, so I mean, with these snow events that you and Deputy Ryan
Yep.
probably had experience, or blowing snow events, can you just give me a rough idea how many times you might have actually looked at a situation, okay? Because you dealt with this
Yep.
situation, convince me that this is a pertinent thing to do.
Isn't this actually outside of yours?
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
so
are
we're
you
talking about
talking-
plowing the streets, so
You're
that's the
talking-
We're not
sheriff's
talking
department.
sidewalks here?
No, that was last ordinance.
I know that was sidewalks, but
That's
doesn't
why I was
this
confused, I
apply?
thought you guys had already voted.
Now, this is basically for clearing the streets,
was-
parking.
Okay, well, I thought the intertwine, it kind of does make
I don't-
sense.
Yeah.
I don't do.
All right, Deputy Ryan,
Absolutely.
There you go.
you want to expand on that?
So just recently, I went to court for someone fighting one of the snow tickets. And his sole argument was that there was no snowfall that day. Well, what it was, kind of a wind event after a heavy snowfall. And so the city issued a snow warning, and we plowed, or the city plowed, and I issued tickets. And his argument was, well, there wasn't actually snowfall. So I actually thought it was a pretty good argument. We were successful in our argument because I don't lose in court. But it was just good. It was a good. I think when I talked to Teresa afterwards, I said we probably should tighten this up just a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
So to answer your question though, the way the ordinance previous to this is written, doesn't matter what happens, the entire width of the sidewalk is to remain free from snow and ice.
That's why I brought Brian in, because I've seen it many times where, it has.
No matter how it gets there, if your neighbor blows a snow
Yeah.
onto it.
There you go.
Or the city blows their snow onto you.
That's usually what happens.
We usually plow it.
Push it, they push it right up.
You
on
know where it's happening.
Yeah. Motion to call the vote.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 676, prohibited burning.
So on this one, We talked about, there are certain things we don't allow being burned in the city, like garbage and refuge, waste. We don't really have anything specific in our ordinance now that covers hazardous materials. So what this change would be, and they're highlighted too, is that it has a definition for what hazardous materials are, and I took this off the DENR's website. And then it actually then includes, you cannot burn hazardous materials. So the list goes on and on, but you can't burn tires or asphalt roofing or tar, things that would be hazardous to a person or, you know, animals or, you know, within the city, so.
Motion to approve ordinance 676.
Second.
Discussion. You want to burn cattails?
We don't burn very good, we tried a long time
You
ago.
tried to burn them, they don't burn very well.
They don't burn very good.
Put enough fuel on them, they can probably burn. Wait, that's
Yeah.
We threw some tires in there, they burn.
Bring a bunch of snowmobiles through there.
Yeah.
Alright, motion and second, all in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? Alright, 677, amended zoning regulations.
Okay, now this one is a new one before you, and it was brought to you out of the planning and zoning's last meeting. I think a couple meetings ago, Don and Stacy Seberdine were here, and looking at their new development in Nats Landing, there are some of their twin home lots that don't meet our minimum lot size requirement. So they went to planning and zoning, because that's their first stop. Asked them about getting a variance. The board felt that they didn't meet the requirements for a variance, but they then afterwards discussed, well, maybe we could reduce our, minimum lot area. By comparing with other towns in the region, we do have a large lot area, and there was a lot of discussion, a lot of calculating of what, an average size twin home is, with double car garage, we wanna still keep that buffer between, buildings. So basically the planning and zoning board decided we're not changing any of the setbacks, we're not shrinking any of those, so that green space still has to stay there, and we're not changing the lot width. But they did suggest reducing the lot area. So basically you're gonna probably shorten up somebody's backyard, on these twin homes, which, maybe isn't a bad thing. It's all between the developer and the buyer of, what they're looking for on a property. So the planning and zoning board, can't talk at all tonight, suggested changing our lot area, the minimum, from 14,000 to 11,250. And they got that by basically taking what the area is for a single dwelling times 1.5. And then that changes, then the lot line split just puts 5625 on each side. So that is their suggestion to you, and that's what first reading of this ordinance changes.
Just for my own peace of mind or clarification, this doesn't qualify for the last two variance requests we've had from South Main Edition, where they platted the house wrong and one property was smaller than you allowed, correct?
Right. Yep, that's what happened.
That was a different.
Just so, this
Yeah.
makes these lots more.
Those are more engineering errors on that. These have not been platted out, but their preliminary plans show that.
But by changing this, it isn't gonna bring a stream of people here looking for variances because they didn't put their twin home on their lot in the correct spot, I don't think. Like you mentioned, it's gonna shorten up their backyard,
Yeah.
reduce their overall square footage for the lot.
Right.
All right, which should make it more affordable.
True. Should.
Should. The price is going up.
Should.
Make motion to approve ordinance 677 as proposed, 627. Ordinance 677. Oh, sorry.
Oh, wait, amend, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, I'm reading ahead.
You need my glasses?
No, I got it.
You're good.
Which is in reference to
627, thank you. Yeah, do that to cover me there, Travis, thanks.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. No matter what, it goes to second reading.
Yeah.
It's our practice to vote on both.
Yeah.
We'll vote. Nelson?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
And Monahan.
Yeah.
Right.
Alright, move on to reports. Deputy Ryan.
Well, thank you for choosing the Lebanon County Sheriff's Office for your protection. I know you have a choice in law enforcement. I'm happy that you choose the Lebanon County Sheriff's Office.
Wow.
I know the Myron report is relatively more detailed than Deputy Albert's. If I'm adding too much, I would really like to hear from you guys, and I can certainly chop some stuff out. What I'm like to do is kind of give you an overall view of what we're going through on a daily basis. Instead of just, there goes the red and blue lights, so I wonder what he's going to do now, or where he's heading now. So if you don't want any changes, I'm happy to keep doing what I'm doing. So in the last 30 days, we had 3 911 hangups, 23 civil paper services, 1 stolen car, 11 warrant services, 69 traffic stops, 3 animal complaints, 9 medical calls, 2 DWI arrests, 1 noise disturbance, 3 frauds, 3 check well-beings, 15 security checks, 9 juvenile delinquencies, 1 suicidal subject, 6 disorderly subjects, 4 family disputes, 2 accidents, and 5 firework complaints. And that comes to about 243 calls for the month, about 8.1 calls per service per day. Ongoing issues, we have some speed limit changes, and people are struggling a little bit with those new speed limit signs, but I mean, really, I chased down somebody on the railroad today who was doing 30 in the 20, and I mean, even at, when I'm trying to catch her at, I'm doing 40 in an all-wheel drive pursuit rated vehicle, and I was just about sideways on the railroad, on the corner. So I think it was a great decision to lower that speed limit. Other than that, that's all I have. Any questions for me?
I don't like this report. We don't have Macy's law, we don't have the, right?
Marcy's?
Marcy's law, there you go, Marcy's. Macy's, that was a different law. But Marcy's law, yeah, we don't get all the detail anymore, so this is about as detailed as we can get, so.
Yeah, and if there's an incident that happens, I can give you general information, maybe stuff that you would maybe be able to find elsewhere also. Just can't give you names and stuff like that. But I'm happy to give you all the details that I'm authorized to give you. But I'm sure, I know if I was living in Hartford and something significant happened, I would like to know.
I've had a couple spots mentioned to me for possibly look at for stop signs. One is Cressman Opal, I think. Hope I'm right. You go down Cressman off Mickelson. It's yield signs on both. I wonder about that one, because I know it's a yield, but I've been behind people and nobody even slows down.
Yeah.
See,
I don't know.
eventually when that road gets put through, they'll actually be stopping east and west.
East and west.
Oh, that's gonna get,
That road will eventually be going through.
oh, so that'll get stopped the other direction.
Flip-flopped, yeah.
Okay.
Crestman will become the primary.
Yep, and that's actually, there's some stuff in the making. that
Okay,
should be coming
okay.
out of it, so.
That's one. The other one is right down the street from me. What's your street, Teresa? Shannon?
Mine's Emma.
Emma and Patrick. Again, another case of people nobody stops at that. And there's no stop sign there. I don't know if we want to start doing that on all the
I think,
side
There
streets.
used to be, I believe, a long time
Yeah,
ago. I
there's,
thought
I
there
mean,
was, but
a lot of intersections are uncontrolled
I know,
intersections.
yeah.
They just-
That's the problem.
I think you'll
If
get
you start
somebody-
there, you're gonna have to go look at a lot of them.
Somebody else will complain because they want their area stopped, the next
Right.
person want theirs stopped, and
I had a couple of my people in my ward down there say they almost got wiped out at that corner. That's the,
Someone on Emma or on Patrick?
on him, not slowing, not stopping.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've often noticed that that's kind of I do a double, triple, quad check
Yeah.
to make sure I'm not about to get T-bone there, because,
yeah, anyway, that's the only.
They come whipping around Shamrock North on Patrick and they're.
Oh, yeah, they're flying.
They're pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, they're on 2 wheels coming around Shamrock.
yeah.
Can I say something about code enforcement?
Come on up.
I had an issue here a bit ago where I needed pictures from some places, was not comfortable going there by myself. So found the officer, it was on weekend, told him, would you mind coming with me? He was like, absolutely, went with me, was there while I took my pictures, and then he said, I'm gonna follow you back to where you're going to make sure someone didn't see you take the pictures and is gonna follow you and try and harm you. So I'd like to say I really appreciate their help as far as
That's good.
those code enforcement issues.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
No, I also appreciate the report, the detail in there. I think it's nice. It's, gives us something to build off of every month, so thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I also looked ahead in Craig's report, and we had somebody going 97 mile an hour down Nicholson on his speed tapes.
97, was it one of us?
So-
Could have been.
I think it was him. He was tested.
They're not 100% accurate.
Yeah,
If
they
move
must not
closer
be.
together, then, all I have to do is move a few inches, and it's gonna throw this, but they're pretty close, I mean.
97.
But if you look at the averages,
Yeah.
that's what you really,
Yeah.
that's what you're looking at, the 85% and the, stuff like that. But yeah, but they're obviously doing way over the speed limits.
Oh, yeah.
They probably were doing 80 some,
Yeah.
And it might have been a patrol car, honestly, responding to a call. It's not uncommon for us to break this down very, going into something serious.
You just like to open them up.
You know, now that you say that, every one of those reports, top speed 98.4, top speed 99, top speed 99.7. That's not even possible, is it?
Right, on some of those streets, yeah.
And it could be something with the vehicle
Yeah.
width, or the length of the
Something.
tire span, because they all go by front tire hits, next.
There's a smart car driving around town real fast, somebody thinks it's going 99.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Any questions for Deputy Ryan?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Nate, the Recreation Director report.
Yeah, just a couple things tonight. Basically, just have the survey in there, as well as the program survey, as well as the logos to review. So first with the survey, I was just wondering if there's any feedback. I tried to keep it as simple as possible. Just get the information I felt like we needed, as well as the activities related to both youth and adults in the area. So I was just wondering if there's any, feedbacks, things you think we need to add in there. And I'm planning to launch this when we launch our website, hopefully here in the coming weeks.
Okay. No, I like what you have out there. Comments?
Looks good.
Yeah, I didn't want to scare people away with a lot of questions, so I tried to keep it as minimal as possible. I mean, the more kids, the more questions I have to fill out, basically, but with, just the identity there, but. Okay, well, if we're all good on that, then we can kind of shift to the logo, and I just want to give a little background on kind of the ideas there and what I was going for. So we wanted to stick with kind of the blue and yellow community colors, as well as I wanted to do something that was not just encompassing, certain sports or activities. I wanted to do something that was kind of uniting, which is why we went with kind of figures, with hands held in the air, as well as kind of the sun, which kind of goes with the city logo as well, and other logos in the community. And I just want, so I've heard some negative feedback already on it, which is fine. I'm just kind of looking for some direction where you guys see it going, likes, dislikes, changes, whatever your impact, whatever your opinions are. And then I just also wanted to kind of say, kind of working on a bunch of different things here that are kind of impacted, that we'd like to put the logo on as we roll out. So that's the only thing that kind of makes it time sensitive in a way, is basically the website. I've got it pretty much prepared to where I'd like it to be now. I'm just waiting to get the logo purchased and send it to the website company so they can design a banner around it, which wouldn't take more than a couple days. I've been told, but I need to have the logo to do that first. We also worked with one of Jesse's, like a video, gathered videos for them to kind of put together a brief video of what we're going to be about at Hartford Area Recreation, which we also want to put the logo in, and that'll also be on the website with the launch as well as the program survey. So it's just tied to a few different things, so I just wanted to make that apparent as far as just the timeline here. and open to any feedback.
As soon as I tell you which one I like, it's gonna be the wrong one, so.
Yeah, I only put the
You could
one
be
in the
like
packet.
me, I don't like any of them.
You don't like any of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, any specific feedback would help.
Except for me, he's already got specific feedback for me.
doesn't like it and doesn't
I
know
called
why.
him, I said I don't like any of them.
If
I don't
it's-
I don't have a solution.
If it's, if it's you like the fonts and that's fine, change, people change something completely, start from the beginning, whatever your, feedback would be, I'd be open to.
How much time and money do we have into this currently, this logo?
It'll be about $300 when purchased and done. We currently don't have the invoice until the process is over.
I've spent more money on worse things, so if we pulled the pin on it now, it'd be out $300.
Correct.
Okay.
Approximately. Yes.
Next question. I'm done.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's gonna be, okay, so this logo, I just wanna make sure I'm thinking of it the right way. Is this for us to decide, there's a Hartford Area Sports and Rec, whose logo is this?
This is Hartford Area Recreation's logo, which would be for recreation programs out of the city, like under my department.
Okay.
So it would be those future programs, for flag football, soccer, park rec would fall under that. Those types of programs would be what's associated with this logo. I made it clear to the sports and rec committee that they, they keep their logo, and that if they want to fall under us, they are welcome to. But that they're still their own group, and they get to, have the impact on decisions facility wise.
Which to me would, and that's maybe not a logo question, but more of an organizational question.
Which is
It'd be
certainly
very
one I'd
confusing
pose
to
in the
me
future, yeah.
If I see Hartford Area Sports and Rec out there with the logo and an entity of some sort doing things, and then I see Hartford Area Recreation out there with a logo doing things. I mean, am I wrong? Like that would be.
I don't think you're wrong, and I think that's kind of a discussion we need to have sooner than later, kind of about how that is going to work, and if we are going to leave organizations the way they are with the current committee setup we have with different groups like that, with like Bike and Rec and with Sports and Rec.
They do meet Sunday night, yes, the 11th, 7 o'clock at the Blue 42.
Yes.
We're not all welcome to come, but we'd sure like to see some participation.
Yeah.
Which group?
Hartford Area Sports and Rec.
Oh.
Yeah.
But if we're all gonna go, we should just need to post it.
Yeah.
It's a public meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't make it, so you don't have to worry about it.
It's not too late to
You're
get
not
that
gonna
on
make it
there.
even if you could
I'm not
make it.
gonna make it. I don't know what I got going on, but I can't make it.
The confusing part, I hadn't thought about that, that hadn't, cause yeah, no, if you had community ed in the future,
Boy, yeah.
and my comment 2 weeks ago was, it's a city department, how does it tie in with the city logo?
Right.
And I, alluded to that, it doesn't tie into that. I guess other than the sun, it's got the sun, yeah.
That was the aspect of it.
It's got the sun, it's got a golf ball on a tee.
That's what that is, right?
But
That's
That
a
was
water
not a
tower.
tower.
I always thought that was a golf.
no, I know, my comment was, or my question is, if this logo doesn't get decided on, you had said there's, it kind of impacts some other areas, and my question is, if we don't decide on the logo, what are those other areas?
What do you mean, like the other areas, other projects, that I talked about, kind of mentioned at the beginning? It'd be, the websites, the video. I mean, those things probably aren't the end of the world if we want to move on. I guess I just like, we're gonna have a logo, we're not gonna, for when I launch it. We have the colors, as long as you guys are okay with the colors, I think, we do the color scheme, and we can, make changes if you'd like. I just think it'd be good to get out there to kind of launch everything together. That way it's a clear, this is what this is, that's what it's associated with, rather than, bringing it on at separate times or changing it in the future if we were to take this on and then, redo other logos as well. I guess I just basically either like, we like, you know, these three things, we like the colors and the fonts. We'll change the logo going forward, bring us something, you know, for next time, or if it's, you know, stick with, you know, the color scheme, but just wait to launch a logo with it. That I'd like to certainly have by, you know, the beginning of next year at the latest, if not sooner, to, you know, properly have that to roll out with programs.
No, I get where you're coming from. Once you launch website, media, all your stuff, you're gonna want it. You're gonna want all of it to match. You're gonna want it all to look right. I think there are a few discussions that probably need to be had, but I don't think they're long term. I think this, you know, next year's
it's a ways away. I'm just saying worst case scenario for like, okay, well, we want to redo all the logos and we want to correlate. It might take longer.
Can I ask you a really stupid question?
Yeah, I love it.
This is not my wheelhouse.
Say the word synergy, I dare you.
But every bit of me right now is curious why we're not trying to piggyback on a Trojan. Because when you think Trojan, you think West Central, and you think athletics, period. To me.
We don't want to exclude the homeschool kids.
No, you know what I'm saying.
Right. I get what you're saying, certainly.
Because this is all recreation.
Certainly.
And then if the community ed rolls in, I don't know. I don't think you copy a Trojan helmet and face, but I think you can piggyback somehow. I don't know. That's just what I'm sitting here thinking. Because honestly, the sunshine and the 3 unisex people holding hands. I mean, they're either dancing or all 3 of them are
like
players.
raising hands on a hill, but yes, they have got a lot.
I was trying not to say that.
I mean, I'm not trying to break your chops, Nate. I'm just saying.
No, it's okay. I've heard worse feedback.
No,
it's fine.
Yeah, I called him and said, I hate it.
No, I like that idea. I guess the only question for me then, you know, is asking about that confusion again. If we put a Trojan in there, are we associated with the school?
Well, that's why I don't think you mimic it, but I think you can play off of it somehow.
I guess to me, my thought for playing off was the color scheme, but you know, certainly we could, you know.
That's my only comment.
I wonder for starters, take the 3 people out, leave the Hartford area rec and the sunshine as your generic background, because that's easily then adaptable to whatever you want to put in. Take the people out. Just have the sun and the Hartford area rec.
And then you're saying put something else with it.
What's your title, Nathan?
Recreation director.
Okay. So, what?
I was, not Parks and Rec.
Correct.
Just Recreation Director.
Correct.
Then my other thought was,
That's why
take
it's
the people
recreation,
out,
not Parks and Rec.
kind of off what Mark said, have a bat, a ball, a soccer ball, a basketball, and a football.
On the sun.
On the sun, scattered over the sun, in blue.
Because then it looks similar, yeah, it's similar to the Swenson Sports Complex.
Right.
And then you can make it specific to whatever you're pitching.
That's what I thought. Bat and a ball, and a soccer ball, and a basketball, and a football, scattered along the sun.
I think the general feedback you're getting is, let's see if they've got some other ideas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I guess to me, the only reason I went, you know, with the, you know, very generic unisex, you know, calling people, was because I looked at other Parks and Rec logos. A lot have suns and a lot have people. Not that I wanted to be similar, but that it was, you know, an easy way to put that out there, but without, you know, saying, okay, well, what's in the picture? It's softball, basketball, and soccer, and then so you know, flag football. How does that fit in? That's, I guess, my only reason I didn't go with any direct sports, or you know, stick people playing sports, whatever. But I certainly think, you know, it could be adapted in that way.
I think there's a way to be able to do a logo that sends that message without the specific every sport listed.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to send, you know, MJ Designs and say, this didn't quite hit it. We need something a little bit different. And in the meantime, we need to make sure Hartford Area Sports and Rec is on board with assuming the same logo, the same identity. And if you need help being at that meeting to talk about that, I'd be happy. So this is good work, and it's a good step in the right direction. I just think the general feeling is, let's get draft 2, see what else they maybe got out there.
Certainly. Is there any, other than the Trojan, is there any specific ideas? You know, Trojan and sports.
Oh, you didn't like one idea. but
No, and
that's
like
it.
sports and like, you know, sports in front of the sun. Any other ideas?
Just quickly, Sioux Falls Parks and Rec
It's
has a son.
basically a sun and like a
Brandon
wave.
has a son.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have a
Maybe
son.
we don't have sun.
Look behind you.
Maybe we have one, maybe we have one.
Yeah, were you the one that wrote the
At our
title?
last meeting, maybe we should have started this logo discussion with a new city logo. Mayor, you had mentioned this several years ago.
So do you think it's okay for Nate to move ahead with the colors, the blue and yellow, like you said? He can then incorporate them into the banner, the website, so we can get the website up and going and whatnot. And then come with more options for a
Yep.
logo.
Yep.
Always add that at a later date, because you can change those banners on the websites, but at
Color's
least you
good.
can get moving.
Colors are good. Good colors.
Yep.
Good colors.
Okay, we like colors.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll be able to kind of bring it back to next meeting then, 20th.
Whenever you can get them
Yeah,
back. Yep.
okay.
Yep.
But before we close, I do have to just ask one little question, because we're all done mobile crazy here in the last 10 years. This.
Yeah.
Okay, I got this today.
Correct.
All right, stapled together. So, I ask a question to you. Did you know that the Hartford Bike and Recreation Committee has their own logo?
I did not.
My point exactly. That we've all gone nuts with this logo.
It's not on there.
And
'cause
so
I had
you
never
have
seen it
that
anywhere, 'cause
logo
they don't have
right
all
there.
their presence.
They all have their
And-
own logo.
Huh?
They all had their own logo at one time.
Right.
Bike and Recs, the sports complex, the pool committee when it was going, and downtown.
Yeah, so my point here is that, you know, let's somehow bring this all together a little bit. I mean, there's synergy amongst all the
There it is.
logos. There's the word, I got it out, Mark. Okay, so, you know, and I use this as an example because of this, you know, is that we all have these crazy logos. If you need a PDF of it, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, if you, okay, you didn't say
And-
anything.
and
Nobody
so-
said anything about the logo. That's
So, you know, I mean, it's just an example of how.
I've never
kinda
seen it on anything.
Goofy, so
so
it's just not your fault, it's not your fault. But when I saw that, I went, like, yeah, we're talking about logos, and they all have their own logo, but it's a brochure for Bike and Rec, and it's not there. And so, just giving an idea, and it was before you were here, and so I totally understand that. So, that's just all I wanted to say about that.
Nathan, my last question for you.
Yes.
Help me find where you shared. Did you do a survey online? Was it a Twitter survey? Was it
You're talking about the park rec survey?
Yeah.
We have that information. I was planning to put it in kind of with my proposal at budget time. I can get that to you earlier. At least
I
the
was just
results,
thinking there was a
if you'd
survey
like
that
it.
was done. And
Certainly.
And it's been done for a while, and we just haven't seen anything from it. So-
Yeah, I apologize. I guess I got done with it. Kind of, Teresa and I met and talked about the results and kind of we know what we're gonna plan for Park Rec next year, but I haven't got back to you guys yet, and I apologize for that. I can send out that information if you'd like.
It's like doing employee reviews and then never giving them to the employee. Hey, what about that?
It's not a good thing, yeah. You don't want to see it. All right, thanks, Nate.
Yep.
All right, we do not have specials here, but we'll move to that agenda item.
Boy, they are lucky.
We do have change order number 2 on Landmark Road. And anything else Craig or Teresa would like to speak on Stockwell's report or comment or discussion on their report that's in the packet?
I did get a quick update on Mickelson today when I talked with Mitch. I almost hate to even say this. He thinks that they're substantially gonna make the 15th. He thinks they're gonna be there paving Monday or Tuesday next
Talking
week.
paving Monday.
Yeah, he thinks they're gonna make it. I mean, and I think he hesitated to even tell me that. Well, the curb and gutter's in. He said they won't be done. There's gonna be some final grading and some seed to plant and stuff. But he said if everything, barring we get a big rain over the weekend, they're gonna probably pave Monday. And there's not, what is that, 400 feet, maybe 500 feet? More than that?
Probably a little more.
1,000 feet, is it?
Even the shape that that's in, if it rains, it isn't gonna
It
have
should
any
be in pretty
impact
good
on
shape,
that
yeah.
project.
The gravel's packed into it. So
Okay.
it'll be in pretty good shape, yeah.
We'd have some gullies to fill in that we
Yeah.
can pave, once that road is shaped up.
So they Mitch made it sound like, because they left the third lift off back a ways, right?
Yep.
So they'll put the first 2 lifts down and then they'll go back to where they left off and third lift it all the way. Yeah. So, I'll tell you what, I'll do it.
All right, do we have questions or discussion on change order number 2? 6482.
And this is because there was such a mess right there at 9th and Vandemark, is that part of it, Craig?
Yeah, that whole road kind of went apart this spring before they even moved in there, and then once they got in there, there's real no base underneath that gravel, and there's not a lot of gravel there to begin with either. It's one of those things that we're talking last, if we don't do anything with it, planning on having it shut down next spring off and on, we'll try to get it back in shape, try to get some base in some of that areas, or block it off for foot traffic, or, like I said, low maintenance or something, so if you don't do anything with it, the road's still gonna be usable most of the time. It's just, if we wanna have a decent road out of it, this will need to be done.
How much traffic's on that road?
I do have some traffic counts like last year on that.
Currently not.
Let's see. Yeah, currently not. There is quite a bit, I know the golfers complain that there's a lot of traffic on there. I hear from them, and it's, and it's dusty,
A lot of people come across there in the morning.
Yeah, it's pretty busy.
It's busy in the morning. A lot of people come across it.
I think a lot of them, that end of Parkee, if they come to town, that's the way they go,
I think Teresa's comment about it will have to be done at some point in time, and now's a good time to get it while the contractors are on site. We've all, they've been done that one before, and are we looking for an approval, a motion to approve, even though it's, we can't afford it?
Who's to say it has to be done?
Well, Teresa.
We weren't talking about doing it last year.
I think
We
if
were
you're gonna
talking
keep
about
the
it 2 years
road,
ago.
at some point, it may be 10 years from now, you're gonna have to do something, but.
We've all sat here and we've heard that before, where
Right.
suddenly, that rebuild costs twice as much as it does today.
I'm just saying, if you're going to do something with it,
Yeah.
it's cheap, other contractors out
Yeah.
there, cheaper than what the future will be, but you don't have to do
But-
anything with it.
No, I know that.
I will argue the only reason we're talking about doing it is because there's a contractor there.
I agree with
Trent can make a list of streets that need $65,000 worth of
Right.
improvement. And the only reason we're not talking about them, and the only reason nobody knows where they're at, is because we don't have a crew sitting there.
I agree.
Just
General fund,
fail
Teresa?
tonight if there's a motion.
If there's not, Jesus. I feel like
I'm throwing it out there, I'm just telling you, Scott.
I know, I'm with you, bro. It's like, God.
Well, we got some budget talks coming up, and depending upon how that looks, I'm still the guy pushing to get 9th Street done. That'd be a crew in the same vicinity.
Well, 9th Street is getting done, isn't it?
On 9th Street to the west.
To the
Yeah,
west.
to the west.
To the west.
We're still waiting for bid documents. Or did I miss
True,
something?
you have,
Yeah.
you have to put the
Pretty much
bids,
been
yeah.
approved. Pretty much been
We're doing the
approved.
plan,
missed that.
then yeah, you approve the resolution to move forward, yeah, you still gotta approve bids, so
Or it's not,
it's not final.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna run out of here right now and just head to the South Bar if that.
No, it's not final.
Just table it again, Scott.
No, you're gonna vote against it, right?
Did I give you that?
Do we have a motion?
You did.
Motion to move this request to our first meeting in September.
Is that a table? Yeah.
Table this until our first meeting in September.
Second.
After budget meeting, that makes sense. Okay, I'll go with that.
A motion to table? Monahan?
Just being candid, yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
And Nelson.
Yes.
See, I'm playing nice, I could've killed that.
You could have killed it. I was wondering if that's what we were
You
asking.
could have been the devil's advocate. You missed your
I
opportunity.
could've just stuck a knife in it tonight.
All right, Craig.
Can we get that list of streets that need $65,000 worth of improvements?
Budget time.
Budget time.
Perfect.
I hope one of them's not Nicholson.
That you called for.
The only thing I'm gonna add to my report is that I did talk to June Hanson with DOT, she's with the Turtle Creek project, or renaming. Right now, she doesn't know if she has enough for a quorum. We are still planning on having a meeting next Thursday at fire station, 6 o'clock. But they might not, if she doesn't have a quorum, they won't be able to vote on it at that time. They'll just go back to Pier and vote on it whenever they get together. So, but she is planning, we're still gonna have a meeting, and she's gonna let me know probably, maybe even tomorrow or Monday for sure, whether she's gonna have enough for a quorum or not, so. That's the only thing I had to change in my report.
Should I post that as an agenda item? Do you think some of you will be coming to it, or possibly?
I don't think it was hurt.
I mean, I can always throw it out there, and so in case we do have a time or not, I'll just do it.
And if we change anybody's mind there, it might help to have some council members there, mayor there or something.
What day was that again?
Thursday the
Thursday.
15th.
Thursday.
6 o'clock, yeah, 6 o'clock, fire station.
15.
So, is it, you got anything else, Craig? I got a couple of questions.
I have nothing else to add, no.
So where are we at with the sports complex?
The dirt-
The seeding deal.
the
Where's
seed-
this at?
So right now, they have resprayed, they went out and sprayed it all to kill it off. All the
Okay.
planting from last year, or that we did the spring or whatever. It looked good from the road, but you got out there and walked around in there, it was bad.
Oh, it's terrible, yeah.
So it has been sprayed and they'll be reseeding it here, sometime after the seed window. Millborn Seed pretty much came out and said that they had a issue with their seed.
Alright,
So
okay.
they did the same seed in project in Sioux Falls, I guess, and it looks actually worse than the sports complex did.
Really? Boy, that must really look bad.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, so, yep.
Cause that is really, I went out there the other day.
Yeah, I went out there
It's a
after
mess.
this meeting, I went out and walked around and I was like, holy smokes.
Did they, so what did they do? Did they round up it or did they use something stronger?
Roundup on it. I'm sure, well, I'm pretty sure that's what they used.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you exactly.
Well, I'll tell you, there's some stuff out there that I bet Roundup won't kill.
Yeah,
Some of that water weed, I bet Roundup will kill that.
yeah. We went out there and mowed our area down a little bit.
Yeah.
Prior to them spraying, so that we could, at least that way, when they went through and redisted it, they were pulling those big weeds stuff and making it worse, so.
Okay.
So we kinda cleaned up our area of it, we left the other chunk, but they did spray that too, that will get seeded too.
Okay.
So why did we approve their final
Yeah,
pay
pay
request?
request. That's the question.
Between you,
I honestly tell you, I did not go out there, I drove by it on the road and I looked over. and it looked
Teresa?
good.
I don't think I told you to approve it.
you told us not to approve it?
No, I said, I don't think I told you to approve
But you're the city administrator.
it. I was, yeah, you're right, I had been down there, so I couldn't comment
All
on
that
it.
flows uphill.
I know.
So, we get the pay request and we approve it at the last meeting, and then days after, Mitch is out there putting the brakes on, saying we're gonna go back for warranty claim.
We got
Maybe we should have had that discussion before we approved it.
John Brown sat here and said we had a good catch.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's what made me drive out there, cause I wanted to see what a good catch looked like.
I sent you a picture of
I
it.
know you did, but,
Looked like a pasture.
oh darn
I
it.
went out there too. And so D&K Lawn Care, and that's when I was out there too, they killed it off. And my understanding then that the seed company, or the seed applicator, is gonna back it up and say, we screwed up, we put a bad mixture in.
Yeah, from what I gathered from conversation afterwards is that, and I wasn't in the meeting, so I'm just telling you what I kinda heard from Mitch. Millborn Seed's gonna supply the seed to the contractor, the contractor's gonna re-put it in, fertilize it, and everything like that, so.
Okay, it'll be done before snowfall.
They'll be doing a fall seeding, yeah.
Okay. We took a step back on that one.
Boy, no kidding.
I mean, because it was supposed to be done last fall.
On a good note, the rest of our grass out there looks really good.
It does. Yeah.
Looks really, really good. And that's what makes the bad grass but 3 times worse than it is, because you pull in there and you think, man, look at this nice grass, and then you look straight ahead and you think,
It's a Sahara.
The root system in that existing grass is incredible too.
yeah.
That is a crabgrass, isn't it?
No, it's a special turf grass.
Wow.
Man,
No,
I'll
no,
tell
but
you
the deciduous stuff, I mean, my God, I mean, it's 5 to 1. I mean, to the regular grass versus the whatever that is in there.
That's what
We did put that root enhancer with it or whatever too at that time because they were worried about it being dry. So that's why there's such a good root system in that stuff. It's, yeah, try digging it with a spade.
All right, fair enough.
All right. Jeremy stepped aside, told me to keep things moving. Anything else, Craig?
Nope. Did you have anything else?
Well,
2 things.
Oh, the other one was the speed deal, but we've already talked about that. So you said to look at the average. I see you highlighted them, so I should have looked at that closer. It's a yellow color, maybe I missed that, because maybe that's one of the colors I don't
The
like.
counts, man, those counts on Western are
Crazy.
that's impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
That's a
a
lot.
lot of cars on
That's a
the road.
lot of cars.
All right. Anything else for Craig? All right, we'll move on. Karen,
Nothing to add. Someone's got questions for me?
any got any questions for Karen? I'm moving, Jeremy. Just stay out for a while, we'll be done, we'll be.
You're just one click further on the left.
Hey, that's moving in my book.
I figured we were adjourning on the way home.
Anything else for Karen?
Karen, thank you for putting all that time into the.
What?
Karen, thank you for putting all that time into property valuations.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up here. You bet.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy, you can take, I'll hand over the helm.
Alright, anything outside of your report on yours, Teresa?
The only thing, just to let you know, the pool's gonna be closed on Monday, April 19th at 5 PM, so that'll be the last day. Or August, sorry.
April, huh? Hope it'll be closed in April.
No, August 19th at 5 PM. School starts a couple days later, but we think we can still have enough lifeguards around to keep it going till then, so. Yeah, just wanted to give you a little update on the bar property. We paid off the taxes there. We went to go file the signed deed, and there's some issues with the legal description on it. So I was up at the courthouse today, and there's some discrepancy between the 3 offices there, the Register of Deeds, the Planning and Zoning, and the Equalization. I was at all of them, and one says it should go one way, one says it should go another way, and so I'm working with them to clear that up, and once we get it clarified, we'll get that filed, so, right on there. So, that's really all I have in addition.
Okay.
I have a nuisance property update, but I'd like to do that in executive.
Executive, okay.
Great.
Sounds good. Nothing else, we'll move on. We got new business, got a couple of appointments in there. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight, but, made sure that got the information out. If anybody had questions, any of that, for any of the appointments that are out there. The appointment of our Ward 2 council member, I'd like to appoint Brittany Glanzer. She's indicated she would be interested and would accept. If I think most of you probably know Brittany, she's been very active in our Chamber of Commerce and was recently selected as a volunteer of the year in the chamber this last year, and is up in Ward 2. Her husband is got Glanzer Performance, and they're starting a business with that they've been working on getting up and running, and she's also the HR director up at Central States Manufacturing, so it should be a good addition to the council.
You need a motion for that?
I do.
I'd make a motion to accept Brittany Glanzer as appointment as Ward 2 council member for the remaining term,
Just for the
or
remaining-
1 year,
Yep.
till next election.
Yep.
Until next election. Yep. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? We'll vote. Monahan?
Yeah.
Jones?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
And Nelson?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and for the open position on planning and zoning, had several discussions with Tim Graham. Tim lives up on the north end of town. Wanted to try to try to find somebody from that in town, good, lives up on Stage One. He's been on planning and zoning before, it's been a number of years, he was on there, back when there were some sidewalk issues and some of that, and, pretty active, had a chance to get to know Tim, he's very level-headed, doesn't get into a lot of drama or anything like that, just knows things. He's attended he's attended one of the P and Z meetings, and he's also reviewed the packet, feels pretty confident in what he's doing with that, so, that would be my appointment to planning and zoning.
So
Good. Yeah. Did you do
Is that a
that, Alex?
second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Discussion. Okay, vote, Nelson,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
M.I.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll move to surplus list. Got the list of the surplus pieces in here. Any questions on those?
Basically, this is just a surplus. In Turtle Creek Park, we had those two kind of metal bouncing animals. Insurance company has told us we need to take them out. We've had some issues with them before with the insurance company, always suggesting that, and they're just a liability issue, so they deemed them as unsafe, and we should remove them. We just wanna get rid of them, throw them away. I certainly can't sell them to another city or anything just because of that liability issue.
Motion to dispose of the bouncy animals per the surplus list.
Second.
Discussion.
Insurance companies are no fun.
Buzz killers.
I smack my face off of one of those things.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, next up is a lot of work that Karen's put in. It's the review of the proposed street maintenance assessment spreadsheet. And
So this, I put in the packet, it's not the resolution to pass it yet, I just wanted you guys to take a look at this. Karen spent all winter putting this together, so it's been a lot of time and work into it. But, this would be the exhibit we would send with our resolution. Last year we discussed, putting this together to, implement a maintenance fee. It would be $1 a linear foot, we base it off of front footages, with a minimum of $65 for those properties that have, under that. So there'd be a minimum front footage in it. We basically said it will include all property, government, schools, everybody, developed, undeveloped. So this is a list of every property within city limits. You'll notice on the last page, the total of what it would generate. That would go a long way in slurry sealing, crack sealing, gravel, made water, paying a lot of those maintenance expenses.
Cleaning out drainage ways.
That could be another one we could do. But if, the consensus is we still want to move forward, I'd like to put the resolution on our next meeting agenda. But I want you guys to be able to take a look at this first and make sure we're still moving forward. It needs to be approved and passed before October 1st, because that's when we need to get it to the county, so they can get it on the tax rolls. And this would be basically sent out with the residents' taxes. It would be a line on their tax, invoice as a City of Hartford maintenance fee, and then whatever their dollar amount is. So the total assessment shown is the yearly assessment.
Probably gonna regret asking this, but would this affect the mill levy at all?
No.
Probably not.
No.
I think so, okay.
Just gonna be a good way to help fund some of these, maintenance issues with the streets, because
Yeah,
we're gonna be overwhelmed here next year to
yeah,
what it's gonna cost for slurry sealing.
fair enough.
And if you remember when we reviewed this a year ago, talked about it, we're about one of the only cities in the area that does not have one.
Yeah.
Humboldt has one. T, Harrisburg, Brandon, we are one of the only cities. It's another revenue source to help with operating maintenance.
Would it be designated for certain purposes, or?
You could designate it specifically for.
It is for street maintenance,
Street
and
maintenance,
under
yeah.
codified law, we can only use it for street maintenance, so it'd have to be for slurry seal, make, water, gravel. I mean, we couldn't use it to pay, for trees in the park, you know, that's not what it allows.
But it could be used to pave the street.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Anything with the street, I'm assuming we can do the gutters with it too. Sidewalks are not included, I mean, that, they don't constitute that as a street, so.
How's it broke down with the apartment on 500 North Manama? $16, how's that work?
So, yeah, you
Yeah,
can
on
explain that.
those, like there's 8 units, are there 8 units in that one? So I took the
buildings,
whole
yep.
footage, you know, times the dollar, got the total, and since they're all a portion of that, I just divided it by 8 and spread it out equally amongst the tenants.
So there are a few like that, so like the Terry McMahon's, ones like leisure living, you know, there's only so much front footage, well, it's not fair to have the 2 end units pay that and not the back unit, so kind of the similar situation. We said, well, to be fair, parcel, here's the front footage, and divide it amongst the units, so.
So there are a few on there
Yeah.
like that, that are under the $65 because
Yeah.
of that reason.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so those, yeah, would be
They're
neat
just
ones.
multiple dwellings on one piece of
Right,
Right.
exactly. That are separate ownership,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did bounce this past a couple people just to see what they thought. And they both said if it's less than $100 on our tax for a year, they, I mean, probably wouldn't even notice it.
We've had a lot of people say they can't believe we haven't done it earlier.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna notice it. $185.
Yours
Just
is-
because you live in a mansion.
You're in one of the top 10 categories.
Hey, there's some open spots down by us, ours are only on 95.
Developers may notice it just on some of it because of the undeveloped land, they've got larger parcels,
Yeah.
chunks, so we just did the sides along the street and where we think would be their frontage, so.
Might help them push to sell them a little quicker.
I was gonna say,
instead of
but you
hanging on to
know,
'em.
fortunately, when they develop it, they could roll that over to their selling price or lot price, but.
Yeah, back in the 90s.
Really?
We tried to go from 25 cents to 50 cents and put in all the gravel streets at that time. And it got thrown out. They threw everything out. Well, we was trying to maintain our gravel streets that we had in town, like Nicholson and other gravel streets in town. The big property owners that own big chunks, they come in and protest against it. They threw the whole thing out, so we haven't had it for late 90s.
30, 20 years, you know where I live. 20 plus years.
All right, so tonight what you're looking for is direction as to have this in resolution form
Yes, so,
for next meeting.
right.
Yep, okay. Do we have a motion to move forward with this in resolution form?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion?
Have to eat in more often.
What was the motion?
Motion is to put it in, move it forward into resolution form.
Yep, so you'd still have,
Swing the big hammer today.
you'd still have,
Killing everything left and right.
you'd still have first and second readings to decide whether or not you want to make addition, changes to it, change the amount per foot, right? I mean,
So, a resolution, you'll just have one reading, because it's just a resolution, it's not an
Oh,
ordinance.
gotcha, thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
so, next meeting.
What's my neighborhood on South Street there? Is that South Main Edition or what edition am I in down there?
South Street.
South, what's the name of the edition?
He's not
What's the
South
name of
Main.
the edition?
South, just South Edition maybe?
What's
You're
the
not, you're not in
property
South Main.
address?
How much, he wants to know how much it's gonna cost you.
I forgot about that piece of property.
72 feet.
Sounds like an uptown property.
That was-
$79.
Sounds like an uptown property, problem when you got 2 properties to pay for.
Karen says $79.14.
There you go.
Pay more Travis. Oh, he's rude.
I think it breaks it down to 66 on that block to get the traffic.
Alright, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. Alright, Nelson.
Yes.
Keel. Yes. Jones.
Yes.
Donahue.
Yeah.
Alright.
I want to fix it, this is gonna start getting tough.
Oh, yeah. You got council income.
Yeah, that's true, that might help. That might help.
Alright, do we have any correspondence to go over? Okay, if not, I believe we're looking for a motion to go into executive session under legal and personnel.
So moved.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just barely paying on it. Barely. That's not any parts.
It's underpaid.
Well, you're just barely paying.
Barely being.
Yeah, these are cases where we're there. Yeah, we did, yeah, so now we're in the cleanup stage.
All money?
Kind of what- Yeah, yeah, no, none of that, I mean, very.
Tupac and Biggie or no? That's right, your wheelhouse, Tupac.
My part won't be long at all.
See you, Karen. See you, Dave.
I don't think we have. Only if Teresa believes we need to.
No, I say, he doesn't, these cases where Brenda worked on them, and I'm just gonna give you an update on them.
Okay, sounds good.
See no reason, but I do look at I said, we'll have a minute.
We're supposed to read the minutes?
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.